As a kid, I grew up near the ocean in close to St. Augustine, Florida. It's right near where explorer Ponce de Leon landed, looking for the fountain of youth. That's a spoiler alert. He didn't find it. For centuries, we have been looking for what might help keep us younger longer. And as a doctor, I see people get really caught up in this idea that maybe if we could just find that one ingredient in seaweed or kale or olive oil and put it in a pill and take it, that we could go to dance at our great-grandchild's wedding. What if the secret to the fountain of youth is actually something hidden in our daily lives? What if it has something to do with rabbits, rats, and Pennsylvania? So when I was starting out as a young doctor at Columbia University, I got very interested in why some of my patients seemed to defy disease. So one of my mentors told me, go check out the rabbit studies. Here's what I found. I'm going to paint you a picture. We're back in the 1970s, and it was a time where we didn't even understand if eating cheeseburgers and French fries every day was not great for your health. So Dr. Robert Neeram designed a very straightforward, simple experiment. He had these genetically identical rabbits, and he gave them all the same high-fat diet, and he expected the exact same health outcome. And then when he went to look at the data, he had a shock. One of the groups of rabbits had 60% less damage to their bodies. They were healthier. But why? At first, Dr. Neeram thought it had something to do with the study, so he checked everything, it all checked out. And then he noticed something. The research fellows who would come in would often just come into the lab, they would put down the food for the rabbits, they would put the water up, and they would leave. They were just doing their job. And then he noticed that there was this one researcher named Marina. Marina would come in, and she just couldn't help it. Marina was just warm, and she would see those bunnies, and she would take them out of their cages, and she would love on them. Oh, you beautiful bunny. And she would pet them like you would a pet at home, and the bunnies loved it. And Dr. Neeram thought, could it be that somehow the kindness that she is showing these bunnies is changing their biology? Now, I want to pause here because this is a radical idea. This is not how we think about how health works. But much to his credit, he decided to give it a try, and this time with tightly controlled conditions. So he divided half the group up, standard of care, and half got the kind, loving Marina care. And sure enough, they got the exact same results, and they published it in the journal Science. Kindness had transformed biology. Well, you might be thinking, that's great, but that can't change my genes. Well, that brings us to the rats. So it turns out that some rats are known to be much more nurturing mothers and others far less so. So if you have a nurturing mom, they tend to lick their rat pups a lot. And this actually gets passed along generation to generation. So if you have a high-licking rat mom, she has babies that then go on to have high-licking rat pups, and so on and so on. And actually, the reverse of this is true as well. So if you have a low-licking rat mom and she will have pups that tend to be more anxious and bite. And this is a problem for researchers. So two clever scientists came up with a plan, Dr. Schiff and Dr. Meany, and they thought, now could it be that this is something about their personality that's genetically hardwired, or is it something about the nurture? So they did something very smart. They switched the pups to find out. Now, this was in the 1990s, and this was at the height of genetic determinism, the idea that your genes are your destiny. And as long as you had good genes, you were fine. So what did they find out? Well, when they took a pup of a low-licking rat mom and gave it to a high-licking rat mom, that pup went on to become a high licker herself. And then she would have high-licking pups and so on and so on. And the reverse was true as well. This was the beginning of a revolution in genetics known as epigenetics. And this idea that actually our social world is rewriting the story of our DNA. But you might be wondering, what about humans? So let's find out. I want to take you to a little town in Pennsylvania. And the way that we got alerted to it, it was the 1960s. It was a medical conference. Probably everybody was smoking because that's what they did at medical conferences then. And two doctors got to talking. One doctor was a researcher, Dr. Wolf, and the other doctor was working in this small town in Pennsylvania known as Roseto. And this doctor had something extraordinary to say. He's told Dr. Wolf that in his town, no one under the age of 55 died from a heart attack. People just seemed to die of old age. And when you looked at the health data, Roseto had half the deaths of the neighboring towns. Intrigued, Dr. Wolf wondered what was going on. He assembled a team and he went to Roseto to find out. They looked through all the medical charts. They weighed people. They measured people. They took blood samples. They talked to people. And what they found was shocking. What they discovered is that the people of Roseto, they ate steaks. They smoked. They weren't particularly active in exercising either. They were pretty much just like everyone else in those respects. So what was it? And then the researchers realized the warm way that they had been welcomed into Roseto, the way that people had invited them onto their porches to have conversations, the way that families ate together, and the way that neighbors looked out for one another who were struggling. It turned out what was helping keep Roseto healthy was the kindness of their community. So the researchers decided that they would follow the story of Roseto to see what happened, because this was the 1960s, and times they were definitely changing. And as they followed along, what they found was that they started to notice that the community ties were not quite what they once were. People were, as the proverbial saying is, bowling alone. And they were starting to go, eat inside in front of the TV, as opposed to sitting on the porches, eating together. And then it happened. Someone under the age of 55 had a heart attack. And that was the beginning of the data in Roseto starting to look just like the health outcomes of all the neighboring cities. And you see, as Roseto looked sicker, it's not just Roseto. In America, we are currently for life expectancy, 49th in the world. And that's expected to drop in the lifetime of the people sitting in this room by 2050 to 66. And that is despite spending an absolute fortune on healthcare. So this graph shows all the wealthy countries in the world and their health related to their health outcomes and spending. And then you can see we are far on the side. It is remarkable. We are in a league of our own and not in a good way. This is many lost dances with loved ones. But we can turn this around. We know now from mountains of data that the kindness that you give and you receive in all the different areas of your life has a tremendous impact on your physical health and your stress levels. This is what we now call social health and what I call the rabbit effect. And here's the thing, we don't actually need one more study to know to do the right thing. We can be kinder to each other starting today. That is the path forward, and that's how we heal. You're probably thinking about, well, what about the state of the world? I mean, how do I involve the rabbits and the licking rat moms and Rosetto in my life? It really does start with you. So I'd like to give you some tools to sort of think and ideas to think about in your own life that, you have to do what feels comfortable and authentic to you. All right, first idea, welcome touch. So maybe this looks like hugs for friends and family. It could be things like chair massages. It can even actually be hugging yourself. And I know this sounds strange and kind of sounds silly, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate here, and feel free to give it a try too if you feel like you'd be up for it. So actually doing this, your body can't tell the difference, and you get this incredible cascade of all these different hormones, feel-good hormones. And also, I do recommend, if you are interested in a hug, that you ask permission first, because sometimes hugs can get a little bit awkward, and as seen here. Next, I would love for you to think about where you pay attention. In 2007, it was an amazing, life-changing year in my home because we had the delivery of two incredible moments. The first, the birth of our lovely son, Max, and the second, the arrival of our first iPhone. And only one came with a manual. But I have to say, unfortunately, they both competed for our attention, and now we have so much data that you will be happier and better connected. And I know many of the people here spoke about this today, if you simply look up from your phone. So I would encourage you to do that. And next, I would like to talk to you about the power of the pause. And we're going to practice it right now, just for a second. So take a deep breath. So studies show that we are kinder when we pause. And this is backed up by data, including one of my favorite studies. So it's Princeton University. It's back in the 1970s. There are two researchers who have decided, is kindness an inherent quality or is it something situational? So they decide to find out. The way that they do this is they ask seminary students to give a talk about the parable of the Good Samaritan. So you know the story from the Bible where the person receives an unexpected act of kindness from a stranger. And so as the students are preparing, they tell the students that they're going to be giving the lecture actually now in a building all the way across campus. And then they tell part of the group that you're going to have to rush to get over there, and the other part of the group that you're on time. And then here's the catch. They had, as part of this study, an actor who was clearly in distress, spread out on the sidewalk in between. I mean, the students practically had to walk around to get to where they were going to give the talk about the Good Samaritan. So what did they find? It turns out that part of here's what they found. For the students that felt they had enough time, almost everybody stopped. For the students that were in a rush, only 1 in 10 stopped. And I saw something like this play out in my own life the other day. I was walking my dog on a New York City street, and as I was walking, I saw a man down on the sidewalk, not moving. There were people walking by him, and I have to say, I don't judge. I know the data, and I know that they were probably in a hurry. I'm a doctor, so I went to go check on him. And when I started to check on him, the most remarkable thing happened. All these other people came to help me help him. It's just, and someone even offered to hold my dog. It just was a reminder that every human being has a capacity for kindness. We sometimes just forget to pause long enough to remember. We can't control what happens in our lives a lot, but we can always decide how we want to show up in every moment of our lives, and if we want to show up with kindness. Because here's the thing, kindness isn't just about physical health. It nourishes our soul. My favorite fun fact about kindness is it benefits not just the recipient, but also the giver, and also all of the observers. Kindness may indeed be the real fountain of youth. It's astounding, really. Thank you.